Hello, my name's James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK. You've probably not heard of me, and I welcome you to this, the latest video on the Portrait of a Wrestler YouTube channel. And last time we did a portfolio review on here, we took you to Germany, to Sophia, who submitted her images for critique. We are now taking you a little bit further south to Italy and Giuseppe Cuozzo, who has been brave enough to send his images in for a portfolio critique where we can hopefully offer some constructive feedback. We're going to be looking at 10 of his images today and offering feedback in terms of lighting, composition, cropping and technical ability with the camera there to hopefully take everyone's photography up to the next level. So let's take a deep dive in here. We're going to start off with a ringside image from a wrestling show. What a wonderful venue this is. A really intimate venue here, something a little bit different. Love the lighting there. We've got a backlight sort of coming in, probably a foreground light behind our photographer here. But what an interesting composition we got here. I love the way these archways are lit on either side. I love the moment we've captured in the middle of the ring here, just right on that turn, so we can see sort of like we can see the ring gear being spun around, we can see the gimmick being held, we can see fans in attendance sort of blending into the darkness, not too much detail on those, so the attention is very much drawn into the middle of the frame here. The referee in the black and white could do with just darkening down just a little bit so that we're really focused on everything in the middle of the frame here. And once again, I love the way that these archways frame the image. I think they're great. I almost want to see a bit more of the structure up here where it's just cropped off. Almost want to see that complete arch sort of coming in there. And also you'll see on the side of the frame here, this arch is very close to the side of the frame here. This arch on the side of the frame here is quite far away, so it's not quite symmetrical. Could do with just coming in on this right hand side here, just to really give us that symmetrical feel to the picture. Overall, the whole color dynamic as well of the image is a little bit warm. Could do with just toning down, maybe just adding a few sort of blue tones, maybe making it a bit cooler in your color temperature beforehand, but that's just a minor detail. Try and lose this tiny reflection in the back as well here between the ring roads, because when you bring it out you can see there's a spotlight there and a little reflection here, just a little bit distracting. I don't mind the phone over here because that's helping tell a narrative of all eyes on the middle of the ring and everyone trying to capture something from there. But yeah, a really good commercial shot, I suppose, for the venue in terms of what, you can get a ring in there. So, I mean, that's good for them. It's good for the promotion because it looks like everyone's engaged in the product, and good for the wrestler because he looks like a star. So all the boxes tick there. Really cool. Once again, I don't see these images. I just download them and then, you get my instinctive reaction as they come up. This is a really interesting shot here. Actually, normally I wouldn't like the crop through the faces on the foreground bodies here, but I think that really leads you into the picture. I like it. I like the tonality from it. It's a bit dark, but I do like that. I like the tonality. The blues and the purples really work with that tonality. I think the arm here on this side of the frame is just a little distracting. It's a little bright. Again, that could just be toned down. But there's a lovely intensity here. Look at the look between these two here. And look, actually, when we crop in a little tighter, maybe it's a little stronger. I don't know. But I love the look between these two here. The light on his face here on the right hand side is gorgeous. He's got a little kicker just coming across, sweeping across the face there, which isn't apparent on here. You can see where it's getting the back of his neck, but it's not on his face, which is a shame. And it's a shame we can go just a little bit lower because the referee. There's a couple of things wrong with the referee, and these are out of your control, but the hands across the face, and then he's a little bit high in the frame, so his face is just going behind that beard there. And we can tell he's a referee, which is nice because of the stripes in there, but he's just a little bit lost, and it's a shame because I do think he's helping tell the narrative. His placement just needs to be a little bit keener. So just a few distracting elements in there, but again, a nice dark image that really sort of brings you into the frame, which I like. Portrait here, it's called Paxo, God of Suns, Rising Sun Wrestling, I guess. So portrait image here, let's just go in nice and close, have a look. Good focus point on the eye there with the contact lens. That works really nicely. To get a proper profile, we just need to turn his head very slightly away from the camera. It's only a fraction, but you can just see here where we can start to see the other eye and the other eyelash. It's not quite a profile there, and I think it'd just be a slightly cleaner profile shot if we did that. The placement of the light is pretty good for the belt. We've got a tiny little hot spot here and a few sort of lighter areas here that could have just been dulled down in post, or could have just been looked after a little bit with the lighting, and just lifting that belt up a little bit. It starts off quite bright and then it comes down into darkness, but ultimately it's quite flat, the light across down we can see. I want to see a bit more of that hat almost. This image would really benefit from a kicker light on this left hand side here, just spilling a little bit of light on the back and just giving us a nice little bit of rim lighting to the hat. Overall the expression is quite nice. The processing, there's some sort of greeny tones there in the beard and in the skin. They're a little bit cool, and that could just do with a little bit of warming up, I think. But overall, a good attempt. That lighting, it just needs a bit of refinement. You almost need to bring that light further round the back of the subject and have it skimming across. And the reason being is the nose shadow. It's a little low. So what's happened here is the light's coming across and it's giving us this big black shadow of the nose. Any further round and that's hitting the eye, and that's being a problem. So we've just about controlled it. But you want to almost lift that light up and have it coming across to create a lovely little triangle of light just underneath the eye here, and have this nose shadow sort of blending into the rest of the shadows on the other side. But a really good attempt at trying to do something a little bit different. Nice moody image. I just feel as well that the bottom area here with the wrapping around the arm and the bottom of the belt, it's just not really needed. I think you could have brought that crop in a little tighter and just really drawn our attention to the elements of the portrait, with regards to the belt and the face, because I think that's where the story is. So I think that crop could have just been brought up just a little bit there. Okay, back to the football, which is good. Okay, so good use of shutter speed, because we've got everything pin sharp. Even the ball there, which has clearly been hit with some ferocity, is pin sharp in there, so that's nice. I actually quite like the pattern of the seats behind. Could almost go a little bit wider there and a little bit longer on the lens just to really obliterate that in the background. But I quite like the pattern of the seats in the ground. Gives us a nice simple background to play with. The sponsorship board is a little bit distracting. It's a little bit out of your control, but you could lose this green area here on the right hand side. We could go in close and lose these purple dots around the knee and around the foot here, and maybe just lose all of this in here, just to give us a nice clean shot away. And I love the intensity and the way that we've caught the arm there going in there and the way that he's looking. Overall though, I mean, this area here is really nice. Unfortunately, the goalkeeper's just in front of that post, and that's just super distracting for me on this side of it here. We always want to see a clean goalkeeper, and I know you can't just run onto the pitch and get in a different position, but it's just a thing on timing. The more you shoot these events, because you're completely out of control, and often at these events as well, I know because I've been sort of pitch side for football matches, you're told where to go and you're told to stay there, and you're not really given much liberty to move. But ultimately, the more you do of them, the luckier you'll get. And eventually, with this ability to focus on that on the right point there, you'll get the right shot eventually. This is a lovely little documentary shot. Let's have a look. Yeah, good point of focus again. A lovely use of the houses in the background to create lots of leading lines that really take your eye around the frame. And this is a lovely little outstretched arm here. Lovely little sort of guidance through, which I kind of like. The only thing is this camera lens on your camera right is just a little distracting for me. And without that, we've actually got a much cleaner narrative. Bit of contrast in there as well. It feels very flat in terms of the tones and the tonality, which I think blends well with the background. But I think it could benefit with just a little bit of contrast in there. And like I said, it is a shame that lens is there, because there are people in the background helping tell this narrative of this gentleman in the foreground being watched here. And it's a shame that more details. It's one of those rare instances actually where I think like a greater depth of field would really help. Often people try and shoot, especially when they're outside, as wide as possible, just to draw your interest through sharpness to a specific point. But I think that whole thing has an engaging narrative. Nice low angle, well captured. Watch the crop through the hand here at the bottom. So we've got these servicemen in these uniforms, and that watch is just a little bit off-putting at the bottom. It sounds like silly little things when I say it like that. Use the watch and lose those things. But the attention to detail is often, where that last, 20% is really in an image. Okay, so Tim Thatcher. I can't help but feel I like the 3 stages of depth in this image. So the 3 stages of let's just have a look at this now. The 3 stages of foreground to middle ground to background. So your foreground is Tim Thatcher's opponent in the front. The middle ground is Tim, which is where the point of focus is, which is perfect. And the background is the referee. The referee, sadly, for his 2 count, has his, as you can see there, has his hand cropped at the top of the frame, which is a shame. It's a shame there aren't more people in attendance and there isn't more of a uniform nature to the background. But actually, the colour combination actually is a perfect triangle. Your colour combination is blue to red to yellow. That's a perfect primary colour triangle, which is really, really nice. But it's a shame they're not more engaged. And the cropping of the arm at the bottom, can you see here where we've just kept in there, really highlight as well the arm there. And it's a shame there's not more light, because that guy's expression in the foreground is really, really in pain. And Tim's expression, as it always is amazing in the middle ground there. Everything just needs a little bit more light. And I would, because you've got these cropping elements where we can't see the hand at the top and we cropped in the arm at the bottom, almost, I think, just for me, maybe just like an even tighter crop there might draw our attention in and actually be a stronger image. Even though we're losing the referee's head, I don't mind that so much because it's still telling the narrative. Just a bit of experimenting there. Just have an experiment with it. Be brave on these crops to try and do something a little bit different. You know, less is more sometimes. Interesting light on this one. Obviously, we're at the end of the match where things have gone down super sort of into these red and pink tones. The pinks have just started to lose a bit of detail in some of them, as I can see here on this side of the image. We're telling a story though within there, which is nice. A good control of actually the spotlight in the background. Although it's very bright, it is very bright and it is very distracting. It's actually quite nicely handled in terms of the little rays coming off of it, which is nice. Is this Lego? Of course it is, right? And I think the guy in the foreground really dominates. And I think that is slightly to the detriment of the image. I think there's interesting elements that are going on behind. And I think the most engaging expression is this guy in the middle here. There's a really lovely engaging expression in there. But you're working in a super difficult environment with low light. So to get anything at this low light, I think is, you know, I take my hat off to you. A little bit of attention again, just watch these little lines in the top corner there, just a little bit distracting. So we want this whole thing to almost have, feels like almost like an analogous or even like a monochromatic image almost, because there's so much sort of reds in there, so many reds and pinks in there that are almost working together. Yeah, just it's a well caught moment. We just need to just refine it just a little bit, and sometimes once again these things are out of your control. You can't really control them. This is a great moment here, just with the 2 wrestlers in the ring. The 2 belts in front of them, the crowd close to the ring. Again, good use of colour. The yellow ring, I think, actually really helps. It doesn't help the skin tones, because where yellow comes up, it really makes the skin tones look that sort of yellow, unnatural sort of colour, really. But they actually work together again. We've got reds and yellows and blues all working in there, so it's quite a high contrast primary colour split, but it works well. And a great timing there. Great timing on the fist bump. I like it. It would maybe worth your while to go in and just try and maybe just shop out this guy in the background here, so that fist bump is clean and hasn't got anything behind it. Love the kids hanging off of the ring apron there. Yeah, really different, and a good element of storytelling from the referee in the background as well. Your main light here, because of the way that the ring's been lit, is very, very high, which has given us a super dramatic feel. It's just a shame we can't see more detail in the face, but that again is out of your control. Good timing on that one. Very soft tones in this one, so we've got very soft blacks. The blacks have sort of been lifted to give us this. It's one of these sort of modern sort of social media filters, it feels like, you know. Ultimately, we're working with a main light on the left hand side here, with the light coming across the face. It's a good split light there, good split light across the face, and just enough detail in this side here, despite the post-processing. We've used the pose to really show off the tattoo, which I think is really, really keen. A good sort of rule of thirds as well we're trying to work with, but it's just the crop on this right hand side here, the crop where the arm's gone out, and then we've got sort of like a big thumb here and then 3 fingers here, and it's just all a bit out. It's all a bit distracting, really. Plus, I'm not entirely sure that having a down in the bottom right hand corner is making the most of the shape and the form. Potentially, if we turn our head towards the light as well, everything will change. The shoulder position will change, the hip position will change, and we'll get something, you know, something a little bit different, a little bit more pleasing. The real interest in this picture is not the walls or the light or the leading lines or anything like that. That's all pretty much standard stuff in the background to draw our attention to the subject. The interest is in the subject. So we want to see a little bit more of her, really, and potentially experiment with reflectors. You can get silver and white reflectors. If you're only working with a single light outside that's a natural light source, you can get a silver reflector on the right hand side here to bounce a little bit of light into that hair and give us a little bit of separation and give us a little bit of difference. But a good use of light on a cloudy day to get a nice soft image. I just question some of the cropping. I question the placement within the frame, and I question whether we couldn't have got a little bit more out of this with a little bit of keener posing and making the most of our subject there. And okay, one for the world of the WWE, I think. So this is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. It's actually, do you know what? It's a shot of the two of them together. I actually see it more as a shot of Sami. I'm not sure Kevin's really adding a lot into this image here. It's a shame the crop is just going through the fingers on him there, just cropping through those, which is a shame. The point of focus though is on Sami, and again he's jumping up. So he's jumping up into air, so we want to really see him get some nice big air on this shot. And unfortunately the crop again is just cropping through the feet, which is having the opposite effect, if that makes sense. Take a little bit of care if we can to try and maybe remove the photographer in the background, because they're not really helping the narrative of the story. We can't see them taking a shot and making these guys look more and more like superstars. It's just because of the shallow depth of field. They're just there in the background. The shallow depth of field has also really helped. I like the way that that's been chosen, because it really helps make these lights blur in the background, which is helping to the pattern. But I just think it just needed a little bit of keener. It's a good timing on the moment, but I think we've sacrificed timing for good cropping, if that makes sense. And if that's cropped in RAW, sadly it's unlikely to be able to be saved there. But yeah, great expression again from Sami. He's an interesting character, certainly. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you very much for your submission of images. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you found it useful. If you would like to be like Giuseppe and be brave enough to have a constructive portfolio review, you can do. You can email me portraitofawrestler@gmail.com. You can follow me on the Instagram and the Twitter @Y2JimBob. Thank you very much for watching, and as ever, all the very best.